Our group are going to discuss corporate governance and the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. So as you can see on the screen, I've created a flowchart about corporate governance, and my partner Jean May will talk about the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. But first, corporate governance. Corporate governance is generally recognized as involving many diverse aspects of business. Thus, a different definition of corporate governance exists to cover each different aspect of interest. So, nagkakaiba-iba daw ang definition ng corporate governance depende sa kung saan ito ina-apply at kung sino ang nag-a-apply nito. For example, iba ang definition ng economists sa corporate governance, ganon din ng mga financiers as well as accountants dahil binabase nila ang corporate governance sa kani-kanilang interest. Pero kung magpo-provide ng isang definition lang, for accountants, they would characterize corporate governance as an elaborate system of checks and balances whereby a company's leadership is held accountable for building shareholder value and creating confidence in the financial reporting process. So dahil nakabase ang definition sa perspective ng mga accountants, of course, in-emphasize sa definition ng corporate governance ang financial reporting ng mga financial statements, checks and balances, shareholder value dahil may interest ang mga shareholders sa financial reports. So dito makikita na iba ang definition ng corporate governance pagdating sa accounting at kung paano ito ina-apply ng mga accountants. But although napaka-diverse ng definition ng corporate governance dahil sa iba't ibang klase ng tao at corporation na gumagamit nito, in general, corporate governance involves the manner in which companies manage and conduct themselves to achieve financial discipline. It is a system with many components working together for a common cause, and that is para ma-achieve ng mga companies ang kani-kanilang goals. So, a related concept na part ng corporate governance ay ang tone at the top. Ano ba yung tone at the top? Tone at the top refers to the set of values and behaviors in place for the corporate leaders. Ito daw yung mga values and behaviors na nag-guide sa mga corporate leaders. Hindi lang to treated as written policies, pero dapat present rin siya sa attitudes and actions ng company's leadership. Hindi lang sa kanilang management inside the company, but also sa involvement nila sa ibang organizations na connected sa company. So, sino-sino ba yung mga participants in the corporate governance process? Sa single definition ng corporate governance kanina, na ito daw ay elaborate system of checks and balances, hindi lang siya considered as elaborate because it is multifunctional, pero dahil na rin sa iba't ibang participants na involved sa system na ito. At ang mga participants na yun ay tinatawag na stakeholders. Stakeholders are all of the different people who have some form of involvement or interest in the business. They can be either a financial interest or a financial risk na significant sa overall strategies and operations of the business. These stakeholders can be classified as either internal or external stakeholders. For example, sa internal stakeholders, meron tayong board of directors, managers, supervisors, and employees. Sa external stakeholders naman, meron tayong investors, creditors, suppliers, customers, and regulators. Yung regulators, sila yung responsible for the laws and guidelines that govern the company. Ilan sa mga most influential governing bodies ay ang Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, who protect the interests of investors by making sure that public companies provide complete and transparent financial information. Next is yung Treadway Commission na nag-form ng Committee of Sponsoring Organizations or COSOC that created the framework for internal controls evaluations. And last, yung Financial Accounting Standards Board and International Accounting Standards Board, who is responsible for establishing applicable financial accounting and reporting standards na nagpo-provide ng useful financial information na makatutulong sa decision-making ng isang business. So now we'll move on to functions ng corporate governance. Itong functions na to ay composed of several interrelated functions, so connected sila sa isa't isa, such as the management oversight, internal controls and compliance, financial stewardship, and ethical conduct. First, management oversight. Management oversight encompasses the policies and procedures in place to lead the directorship of the company. Itong mga policies at procedures na ito ang nagli-lead o nagsusupervise sa actions ng mga leaders ng company, such as the managers, supervisors, officers, and directors. Next, internal controls and compliance. Internal controls are the systems by which companies control risks. So, para makapag-comply dito, isa sa goal ng corporate governance with respect to internal controls and compliance is to ensure that financial information is accurate, transparent, and complete. Ano ba yung tatlong yan? Accuracy relates to the correctness of the information presented. It is concerned with whether the financial information is verifiable and proper. Next is yung transparency. It relates naman to how clearly the financial information can be understood. And completeness is concerned with avoiding omissions of important information. So you can say that accuracy is concerned with the correctness of the information, transparency, the clearness of the financial information so it can be easily understood, and completeness, of course, the financial information being completely presented. Yung tatlong to is kailangan para ma-ensure na yung transactions ay prepared and presented in a timely and precise manner, promoting lesser errors or fraud. Next is yung financial stewardship. This refers to the manner in which an agent handles the affairs and the finances of another. So, yung agent or stewards na tinatawag, na tinutukoy dito, ay yung mga corporate leaders o yung mismong management na pinagkakatiwalaang i-handle na maayos yung mga finances or assets ng corporation na pagmamayari naman ng mga shareholders. Yung tiwala na nag-exist between the management and the shareholders o yung tiwalang binibigay ng shareholders sa management ng corporation, yun ang tinatawag na fiduciary duty. So, sa madaling salita, fiduciary duty is a special obligation of trust, especially with respect to the finances of another. Dahil nga may trust between the management and the shareholders, gagawin syempre ng company ang lahat para di mawala yung trust na yun. Kahit paminsan ay nakakagawa na ng unethical or illegal means para lang di mawala ang mga shareholders, at dito na pumapasok ang earnings management. Earnings management is the act of manipulating financial information in such a way as to shed more favorable light on the company or its management than is actually warranted. Ang example nito ay early recognition of revenues, early shipment of products, falsification of invoices, and other records na masasabi mong unethical ways na labag sa good corporate governance. And last but not the least na function ng corporate governance ay ethical conduct. Ethical conduct is often considered as the most important part of corporate governance other than sa mga nauna kong nabanggit na functions. Why? Because integrity and ethical behavior should always be present, starting from the corporate leaders hanggang sa mga employees. Honesty and good deeds are fundamental part of effective corporate governance.
Okay, our next topic in this chapter is objective number 4, which is the history of corporate governance. Sinasabi na ang corporate governance ay magbabago kapag ang focus ng business world ay magbabago din. So we have here the chronology of significant developments that have influenced corporate governance. So these four are the acts developed in the previous years in order to protect the corporate governance of an organization or a business. So, we have Security Act of 1933, Security Exchange Act of 1934, Foreign Corrupt Practices Act of 1977, but the most important act that we have is the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. This is our main topic in this chapter. The elements below are the new guidelines implemented during the 2000th century. So, let's proceed to the next objective, objective number 5, where we will discuss the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002, and the purpose of this act is to improve financial reporting and reinforcing the importance of corporate ethics. So, dito sa act na to, makakatulong to develop the financial matter ng isang organization. Dito rin nire-reinforce yung kahalagahan ng ethics sa isang business. Kung ano ba yung tama at mali, kung ano ba yung mga unethical and ethical na mga corporate activities inside the organization. So, dito, we have the summary of the key provision of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2005, which is the Exhibit 5. And in this summary, we have 11 titles. And these sub-elements are the importance section in each title. And let's proceed to title number 1, which is the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board. So this title, dito pinapakita yung mga responsibility ng mga board of directors, ng mga CEO, or yung iba't ibang senior official in the organization. And sa title number 2, we have here the author interdependence. Ang important section here is the services outside the scope of practice of auditors. Ano ba yung mga services na hindi sakop ng auditor? And auditor of public company are now prohibited from providing non-audit services to their audit clients. So kapag ang kanilang client ay audit client, hindi sila allow na mag-provide ng non-audit services. Ano nga ba yung mga non-audit services? So we have here the bookkeeping or preparation of accounting record and financial statement, designing or implementation of accounting information system, appraisal or other valuation services, actuarial services, internal audit outsourcing services, management advisory services, or human resource management. Investment advisory, investment banking, or brokerage services, and legal services. So, ito yung mga services na hindi na dapat pine-perform ng auditor sa kanilang audit clients. We have here the title number 3, the corporate responsibility. The important section here is the section 301 and section 302, the Public Company and Audit Committee. So, ano nga ba yung mga responsibility ng Audit Committee? So, he or she is responsible in hiring, firing, and overseeing the external auditor and serving as the liaison between both internal and external auditor and the management on any point of disagreement. So, ibig sabihin, sa kanya magpapasa lahat ng report lahat ng report na related sa audit, maybe internal or external, sa kanya lahat yun ipapasa. So, in Section 302, Corporate Responsibility for Financial Report. Ang CEO, CFO, ang other responsible officer, ay dapat mag-submit ng certification, annual and quarterly report, na kung saan sa certification na yun, nakapaloob doon yung mga signatories na kung saan ang purpose ng signatories na ginawa nila ay ini-indicate nila na ina-accept nila yung responsibility na inaatang sa kanila. So, the signing officer ay dapat nire-review ang detail ng certification or yung pinipirmahan nilang paper. Based on the officer knowledge, the report does not misstate any facts. Based on the officer knowledge, the financial statement and related financial disclosure are fairly presented. Dapat walang bias and equally lang dapat. So, the signing officer ay responsible sa pag-establish, maintain ng effectiveness ng internal control. And the signing officer have disclosed to the auditors and audit committee any instances of fraud or internal control deficiency. The signing officers indicate whether or not any significant changes in internal controls have occurred since the date of their most recent evaluation. Ano nga ba yung pagbabago according sa most updated evaluation ng isang organization? So we have here the title for Enhanced Financial Disclosure. We have Section 409 wherein sinasabi na nare-require ang public company na dapat ang report ay pinapas immediately and dapat ang kanilang mga information ay more timely, updated, timely, and reported immediately para ma-provide lahat ng plano sa mga important corporate events katulad ng bankruptcy, new contract, acquisition and disposals, and changes in control. Kung mayroon man pagbabago doon and kapag na-report siya agad, magagawan siya ng magandang plano. And dapat, Section 401, Disclosure in Periodic Reports. Sa disclosure ng periodic reports, the acts introduce requirement for information to be disclosed regarding sa off-balance sheet transaction. So, dito maiiwasan yung mga repeated incident na katulad ng conceal of debt. Dapat ang mga information ay nadidisclose sa off-balance sheet. Section 404, Management Assessment of Internal Control. So, dapat ang detail, sa section na to, dapat ang detail na nire-record ay accurate sa mga transaction na nangyari. Kung ano yung nangyari sa araw na to, dapat yun yung i-record mo sa financial statement. Transaction are recorded na naka-accordance sa GAAP or General Accepted Accounting Principle. And nakika-read out lang siya ang transaction through the management authorization. Kapag walang authorized ang transaction, ito ay pine-prevent or being detected. We have here the Section 406, the Code of Ethics for Section Financial Officers. So, dito, the code must include principles that advocate honesty and moral conduct, fairness in financial reporting, and compliance with applicable government rules and regulations. So, since kayo yung mga senior officer, alam ninyo yung mga nangyayari sa mga confidential information or activities inside the organization, dapat maging honest kayo and yung moral conduct ay dapat i-perform ninyo. So, let's proceed to title number 7, Studies and Reports. Section 802, the criminal penalties for altering documents. So, it is a felony to knowingly after destroy, falsify, or conceal any record or document with the intent to influence an investigation. So, itong section na to ay nagpo-prohibit ng document destruction. So, mini-maintain nito yung relevance ng information according to the length of time. So, sa haba ng oras, mapapatunayan na ang isang information ay relevant. So, we have here the Section 806, the protection for employees or publicly traded company who provide evidence of fraud. So, we all know the whistleblower. The whistleblower is someone who reports instances of wrongdoing or assist in a fraud investigation. So, sila yung mga officials or employee ng isang organization na nagsusumbong ng mga unethical activity na na-observe nila inside the organization. So, yung section na to ay poprotekta sa kanila from harassment, demotion, discrimination, or termination of employment against dun sa tao na binulgar nila. So, ang mga whistleblower ay hindi dapat matakot na magbulgar ng mga information kasi mayroon namang act na poprotekta sa kanila. So, let's proceed to title number 9. Which is the white-collar crime penalty enhancement, the Section 906, failure of corporate officer to certify financial reports. So, we have here the penalty na pagdadaanan ng isang officer na hindi nag-comply sa requirement ng 302. So, yung 302, siya yung corporate responsibility for financial report. Kapag yung responsibility na yun ay nag-fail ka to comply, ang magiging penalty ay fine and or prison term may be imposed up to $5 million and 20 years respectively. So, makukulong ka or magbabayad ka ng $5 million. So, we have here the Title 10, the Corporate Tax Return, and wala itong section na under. And let's proceed to Title number 11, the Corporate Fraud and Accountability. So, dito, kapag hindi mo naman na comply yung responsibility mo sa Section 802, which is the criminal penalty for altering documents, ang magiging penalty naman ay violation are punishable by both monetary fines and lengthy 10 to 20 years prison sentences. Kung kapag hindi mo siya na-perform, magbabayad ka ng iba pa yung monetary fine sa iyong pagkakakulong. So, that would be all to the summary of key provision, and let's proceed to the objective of the objective number 6, which is we will discuss the impact of Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002 sa corporate governance. So, mayroon tayong 4. Management oversight, which is ang mga officials ay may capability na i-perform ang responsibility at dapat accountable. Mayroon tayong internal control and compliance. Dapat transparency, dapat ang isang official or ang isang employee ay open sa organization, ang mga information na nare-record ay complete and dapat accurate siya through the supporting details that he or she would provide. So, financial stewardship. So, he has a capability to fulfill their fiduciary duties. And dito ay pine-perform din nila ang accountability sa isang organization. Ethical conduct meron siyang code of conduct. Ibig sabihin, ang isang employee o isang official ay alam ang tama at mali, ang ethical, ang immoral or moral activities. So, kung may nakikita man siyang activity na hindi kaaya-aya at hindi tama, kung siya ay may code of conduct, kaya niya yung report sa senior officers. And ang performance evaluation din ay dapat hindi tinitingnan yung personal characteristic ng isang tao, kundi yung kakayahan niya na makapagbigay ng service sa organization kung ano yung maiitulong niya. When it comes to communication, kaya din dapat nito na ang impact nito sa corporate governance ay nagkakaroon ng maayos na communication inside the organization wherein nakakapagtrabaho sila ng sama-sama and yung communication nila toward other is maayos. So that would be all in this chapter and thank you for listening.